What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video. We're here for another weekly ROH TV review. This time around is episode number 40. I will apologize for the delay. I had things come up today, so this review is a bit late. I apologize, but here we are. Before we get into the review portion, we do have some Ring of Honor related news that is also a week late. But last week on Rampage, that happened last Saturday, not the normal Friday, Wheeler Yuta became a 3-time pure champion by defeating Katsuyori Shibata. The only thing that they really said on this episode is that Shibata suffered injuries in the matchup and traveled back to Japan. So, as you can see in the title of the video, Wheeler Yuta is now a 3-time and new pure champion again. Will he compete at Final Battle? I have no clue. But we do have a Final Battle matchup announced on this episode, so stay tuned to figure out what match that is. The opening contest this week's episode was a proving ground match between Eddie Kingston and Lee Johnson. But prior to the match, we had a backstage segment involving Athena, Lexi Nair, and Billy Starks. And Athena is very disappointed and pissed off at Billy Starks for losing their matchup last week between the tag match of Athena and Billy Starks versus Ronda Rousey and Marina Shafir. And the thing that makes her the most mad is that Billy Starks is very good in one-on-one competition. But anytime they tag team together, she ends up losing it for their team. But she can make it up by defeating Marina Shafir later on in the night. She shushes Billy Starks off and then calls out Eddie Kingston because a number of weeks ago, Eddie Kingston said that he's trying his best to be a defending world champion and showing up on shows to defend the world championships, something that other world champions don't do. But Athena took exception with that because Athena shows up every week on Ring of Honor and has been carrying Ring of Honor on her back. And if she needs to, she will give him a spinning back fist. So it was very fitting that this has happened. And then Eddie Kingston kicked off the show again in a proven ground match against Big Shotty Lee Johnson, who won a 4-corner survival last week. Eddie is dominant early until missing a spinning back fist. And then Lee Johnson hits a springboard neck breaker and a frog splash for a 2 count. And then later he hits a blue thunder bomb for a 2 count. But Eddie is able to land the spinning back fist and pick up the victory. He has a big matchup tomorrow night on Collision. I was so close to calling it Rampage. Collision against Bryan Danielson in the Continental Classic. Next matchup is the Infantry versus the Boys. Bravo and Brent start the match off, and the Boys are able to double team their opponents in their corner for the early portion of the match, and then the Infantry end up avoiding this and win the matchup with Boot Camp. Next matchup is Emi Sakura versus Trish Adora. After bringing Adora to the ground, Sakura locks in a surfboard stretch, and then Adora hits a full Nelson bomb and attempts a submission maneuver she's never, ever really able to lock in, so I couldn't even tell you what she was trying to do. But Adora was able to land the Lariat Tubman, which is a big lariat, but Sakura is able to roll to the ropes. Sakura fights back with a elbow and a butterfly backbreaker to win the matchup. Next matchup is legit Layla Hirsch versus Heather Reckless. And I'll say the backstage segment that happened prior to the match is longer than the match itself. But Rachel Ellering is being interviewed, and it gets interrupted by Maria Kanellis and Layla Hirsch. And essentially, Hirsch and Ellering turn their attention towards Maria and wanting to know what she had to say to the Renegade Twins. I do not even remember if she did this last week or 2 weeks ago. It was just you would think it was a meaningless backstage segment, but it obviously had some effect if we're talking about it this time later. And she was just saying she was introducing herself to the Renegade Twins and that she's going to accompany Hirsch to ringside. But Rachel Elling's like, yay, I'm going to accompany her as well. So Layla Hirsch has extra backup for this matchup against Heather Reckless, but it was not really needed because she dominated the matchup and won with an armbar. Next matchup is Willie Mack versus Robert Anthony. We see a handful of Hurricane Ranas and a pounce, period, by Willie Mack, and he was able to win the matchup with a sit-out powerbomb. Next matchup, a lot happens in this. Marina Shafir versus Billy Starks. Starks attempts to delay the match by running to the outside, but Shafir eventually follows her and gets stuck in the guardrail once she misses a big boot. Then the matchup goes back in the ring, and it is back and forth with both women exchanging chops. This leads to Shafir locking in submission that Starks pushes her way out of, and follows that up with a Swanton Bomb attempt that Shafir gets her knees up for, and then follows that with a power bomb. Starks is then able to hit a Swanton Bomb for a 2 count, and Starks wins the matchup with the Starks Clash. Now, there's a big segment that follows this matchup up. Before I get to it, I think Billie Starks has 2 different theme songs, because I noticed this one week because she won one of her matchups and her theme song sounds like a generic, like early 2000 song, like one that you would hear on American Pie. I don't know what genre you would classify that as, but when I said that, you probably understood in my head what you're thinking of. But that song only plays when she wins, because the song she came out to when she was introduced, no lyrics. So I think she has 2 different theme songs. I might be overthinking that or not listening very well, but I noticed it one week, and then this week I paid attention because I'm like, hey, I'm onto something here. That does not matter, because Billie Starks' theme song gets shut off because she attacks Marina Shafir, and Athena's theme song plays, and she's accompanied by Lexi Nair, who is carrying a cap and gown. As it is now time for the MIT graduation ceremony, and these caps and gowns are red and yellow, so the crowd ends up chanting ketchup and mustard. And to be fair, I did not know what the hell they were chanting until the announcer's like, hey, that goes on hot dogs, and they're in Chicago. They don't put ketchup and mustard on hot dogs in Chicago. So that chant happened, but Athena presents the valedictorian to Lexi Nair, and she ends the graduation ceremony because the fans were being assholes. But hey, Billie Starks did not get anything. Did not get a diploma. Did not get an acknowledgement. She had a cap and gown on. I don't know. I didn't have to experience. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced going to a graduation, having a cap and gown on, and not getting any damn thing. I would be a little bit heated. And Billie Starks was heated by this because she's done everything Athena's wanted her to do. She's done a lot. And Athena's like, hey, calm down. Calm down. And that did not happen, as once they get back onto the stage, Billie Starks attacks and throws her into a guardrail and picks up the women's championship and hoists it over. While Athena is laughing and smiling, maybe she's, this was her final test that she needed to do, because Athena has been teaching her for many, many, many months. And I'll go ahead and mention it now. Later on in the show, Billie Starks goes up to TK, Tony Khan, and asks for a matchup at Final Battle, and it is granted. So it will be Athena versus Billie Starks at Final Battle for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. And I won't lie to you, a lot of people are clamoring for this matchup to be the main event. That is fair, considering as of right now, 2 weeks out. There's only 2 matches announced. But the story that they have built, I can understand it being the main event. Who's Your Geo has been pushing for this match for months, even though once Ronda Rousey came around, he's like, no, that should be the match. That should be the match. So that is not the match, because like I said, it is Athena versus Billie Starks. If it was the main event, I'm not complaining, because I praise Athena every week on here. So her getting another Ring of Honor pay-per-view main event would be understandable. But my main problem, I guess, is that, hey, we're 2 weeks out. We only got 2 damn matches announced. So hopefully next week is a boom, we got a lot more announced and ready to go. But don't worry, because we will find out some competitors in the Survival of the Fittest match that is taking place at Final Battle. Because at Final Battle, the Survival of the Fittest, if you don't know what the Survival of the Fittest match is a 6-pack elimination match in which the last person standing that was not eliminated is the winner, and in this case will win the vacant Ring of Honor Television Championship. So we had our first 2 qualifying matchups on this episode. The first of those was Evil Uno versus Dalton Castle. It's back and forth with lots of fanning from the boys at ringside until Evil Uno pushes the boys, which makes Castle more aggressive with lots of suplexes, and he wins with the Bangarang. I'm glad that Dalton Castle is in this match, because for the past 2 to 3 months, he's been saying, hey, I want to save television. Hey, I want a damn TV title shot. So now he has a chance once again at the television championship. The next matchup is GPA and Trevor Outlaw versus Colt Cabana and Brandon Cutler. Cabana and GPA start the match off, even though A tag was made to Cutler, which probably shouldn't have been made because he gets his ass whooped for a great majority of it until Cabana, the hometown hero, because as I mentioned, they were in Chicago. It's also very fitting that another wrestling company was in Chicago this Saturday. I'm going too far into that. But Cabana and Cutler win the matchup with a sidewalk slam elbow drop combination. Next matchup is another survival of the fittest qualifier, this one being Gringo Loco versus Komander. And I will mention this. A lot of crazy stuff happens on here that I will end up saying, and then it only accounts for a 2 count. I'm not, like, anytime Gringo Loco competes on Ring of Honor television, this is kind of the occasion, and it's a bit craziness. So, here we go. It was fast-paced early on, and then they go to the outside with Loco chopping Komander. Then Komander has an arm drag off the second rope, which only gets to be 2 count. Komander hits a springboard Hurricane Rana to the outside and a springboard 450 in the ring for a 2 count. Gringo Loco catches a Hurricane Rana attempt to hit a powerbomb on the apron, and then he hits the Gringo Cutter for a 2 count. Komander hits a top rope Hurricane Rana for a 2 count, and then Gringo Loco hits a top rope Spanish Fly for a 2 count, and then Komander hits his top rope running shooting star press for the win, meaning Komander advances to the survival of the fittest match. We've got a backstage segment following this with Mark Sterling and Tony Nese, and they're talking to Jerry Lynn, who the board of directors are Tony Khan, Jerry Lynn, Stokely Hathaway, and Jerry Lynn appears the least out of all of them, which is a bit upsetting. Love Jerry Lynn, but at least he was here this time around to solve this issue. And that Mark Sterling, whenever they have this rubber match between Tony Nese and Ethan Page, he wants to be at ringside because last week he was ejected and that ended up costing Tony Nese the matchup. And then Ethan Page was like, I don't care. I just want the matchup. Be there, don't be there. And Jerry Lynn's like, that's fine. You do have your manager's license, but you will be handcuffed at ringside, so there will be a Tony Nese, Ethan Page number 3. I don't know when that match will take place. We shall see. My nose is starting to itch. We got 4 more matches left. Don't worry. The next matchup is Drolistico and Preston Vance versus Angelico and Serpentico, members of LFI, facing Spanish Announce Project. I don't know if Luther is in the SAP anymore because he's on AEW TV, but looking too much into that. Serpentico and Drolistico start the match off, and then Serpentico is stuck in the corner of LFI until himself and Drolistico exchange Canadian destroyers, and then Angelico and Serpentico do a bunch of kicks on Vance, with him following this up with a spinebuster on Angelico, and then Serpentico hits a springboard codebreaker, and then, he was hit with a springboard codebreaker by Drolistico, and then Preston Vance hits him with a spinning lariat, meaning that LFI win this matchup. Next matchup is a quick one. Nyla Rose making her Ring of Honor debut against Zoe Lynn. Zoe attacks to start the match, but it has little to no effect as Nyla dominates and wins the match with a Beast Bomb. Next matchup, the Iron Savages versus the Butcher and the Blade. And I won't lie to you, I struggle every week differentiating Bronson from Boulder and the Iron Savages, and I damn sure have trouble telling the difference between the Butcher and the Blade. So I might stumble on my words a lot in this matchup. And they're also, all 4 men's names start with the letter B. Bronson and Butcher start as Bronson wanted the big boy, who, this is the bald one, this is not Pepper Parks, the Butcher. And at one point, Blade is shoved into Boulder's chest area. I don't want to say the exact vernacular, so I just said chest area. The Butcher stops the Savage Sauce from being sipped and gets involved. Boulder hits a splash on the Butcher for a 2 count. The Blade kicks Boulder in the ding-ding as he's setting up a maneuver, and the Butcher and the Blade win with a neck breaker power bomb, which I won't lie to you, I looked up the name to this, and then the commentator's like, oh, this is a neck breaker powerbomb. So I just went with that. I don't remember what the hell the freaking finisher's called. I apologize. But now we get to the main event. Brian Cage versus Action Andretti. Back and forth early. Even after Prince Nana grabs Andretti's leg, Cage catches Andretti's dive attempt and then throws him into the ring post. Cage attempts several pinfalls, but Andretti kicks out. Andretti hits a couple of super kicks, a neck breaker, and a springboard 450 for a 2 count. Then Prince Nana gets involved, and Andretti is set up and hit with a pop-up powerbomb and a gory special bomb for the Brian Cage victory. I don't know when the Gates of Agony will be back from the New Japan Tag League, so that is why we haven't, I would imagine that's why we haven't had any Ring of Honor 6-man tag team matches as of recent. But Final Battle is not next Friday, the Friday after. I will try to get my review out early, that way my Final Battle predictions are out as well, but hopefully we have a whole, or at least a great majority of the card announced by then. I hate that we had to deal with this for, I'm not going to say, definitely Death Before Dishonor had this issue. Supercard of Honor didn't really, but it should be an interesting watch. Final Battle is always a good show. Has there been a bad Final Battle? Last year's was decent. 2021 was supposed to be the end of the era. Last ever ROH show, that was not the case. 2020 was kind of forgettable. 2019 was not as bad. 2018 was pretty good. That was the last of the Elite. 2016 was a great Final Battle. So if y'all want to go back and watch a Final Battle, watch that one. But like I said, we're on the road to Final Battle. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. I apologize again for it being delayed, but I'm uploading this as soon as I push the red button. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.